Welcome to my coding school. Let's continue with text styling. So here in VS Code, I'll add in a text with a paragraph. Then I'll say this text and then save. Then you can have the text here. So here I'll add in an ID called test. And then what I'll do is I'll get this element by its ID called test. And then I'll get a property called text decoration. And then I'll set it to underline. And then when you look at now the text underlined, so after that I'll put in a new property called text alignment. So here I can put the text in the center. So now you see the text is in the center. So you can change it to right. Then the text will go to the right, or simply the left. By default it's on the left. So what I'll do, I'll leave it to the right. And then let's look at another property called line height. I'll set it to 2, meaning that the line will now be twice the font size. Then now you can see it has changed. And then let's look at font size. I'll change it to 50 pixels. And now you can see that the text is now bigger. And then what I will do is add letter spacing, and then I'll add it to 4 pixels. Now you can see that the spacing between letters has increased. I can also add in word spacing, set it to 20 pixels. Then you'll see that the text has now increased with the spacing of each word. So this is how we can format the text. So let us look at how we can style a list. So here I'll add in another list, and then I'll put in mango. Then I'll add in apple and orange. So here we have apple, then here orange. So save, and now we see that we have a list, and by default the list will have some spacing this side on the left, and then you'll see that by default the list has disks. So here I'll come to the CSS, and then I'll get the list, and then I'll use a property called text list style type. List style type, by default it's disk, but I can change it to circle. Then now you see that the list has circles. I can change it to square, and the list will have squares. So I can also get rid of the padding, which is the spacing. The padding, set it to 0. Then I'll get the margin, set it to 0 as well. Now you'll see here pixels. Refresh, and then you'll see now we don't have any spacing on this side, and normally the lists, that's how they are styled, without any spacing and bullets. So let us look at the box model. So in web design, every element, for example this h1, is considered as a rectangular block, and this determines the way the browser displays this element. So the box model is made up of 3 properties, namely the border, the margin, then padding with the content. So let's look at this. So what I'll do is I'll remove this text, then I'll come to HTML just below here. I'll put in a div, and then I'll put in some simple text, and then I'll add in a class of box like this, and then save, and then we have the text here, and then back to the CSS. I'll get this div here with a class of box. So here, box. Then what I will do, I'll start by applying a border, so 1 pixel, the thickness of the border, solid, implying that it's a line. Then 1 pixel solid black, like this. Then we shall have the text surrounded by border. And then what I'll do is I'll add in the height of the content to be the pixels. Then the width to be 300 pixels, like so. Then we can have this kind of setup and be able to see properly. I'll give it a background color. Give it orange, like this, so we can see clearly. So here I'll start by giving it a padding of 20 pixels, and now you see that there will be some space around the content, and then I can give it a margin of 20 pixels. Then you will see that it's now spaced away from the element. So a browser supports this kind of setup. So if we get to the browser here, and then we inspect, right click, and then you will find the inspect, then click on it. Then you will see in the layouts you have the box model. So you see that the content here is the height and width, and then the next is the padding, then the border, and then the spacing around the entire element with its content outside the borders. So this is how the border box looks like, the model. So if we get back to Visual Studio Code, we can have all of these properties have different settings. For example, I can give margin top to this element. Then you will see now that it will only be applied that side. Yeah, margin top. Then you will see that now we don't have a margin on the left and then below. So this the border, the padding, the margin, I have a top, right, bottom, and left. So for this video, we are going to end here. Then I'll see you in the very next one.